normal process under the NHD Act is that we would allocate it based on points. So the point system is outlined in the Act, and it is 20 points for every year of contributions. What that would mean is that if you have been contributing for 20 years, you'd have 400 points. If you have been contributing for 30 years, you'd have 600 points. In addition to that, we have what we call bonus points, which are allocated in addition to that sum total. So in addition to the subtotal, you would get bonus points based on the category of income. Those at the highest income band would get 70 points, those at the lowest 110 points. So that is added to your years of contribution. So if you have done 30 years, that would be 30 times 2,600, and if you're at the lowest income band, you'd get another 110, giving you a total of 710. So this computation is done for all persons who apply for the NHD schemes. And then based on that queue, which we call the main queue, you are selected by our branch, and then it is audited by our chief internal auditor. You are selected for a unit. Now, outside of that, we have special categories such as our nurses, or policemen, or JDF, or police. And the NHD, over the years, we have been allocated a special queue for these persons. What that means is that you could actually have less points, less years of contribution, but because you're in that special queue, you're able to access a benefit.
Just a question. In terms of application for the benefits, for persons who are not selected, how do you present the case to them? I mean, for them to understand and appreciate the reason for not being selected.
During the information period, which is usually a week leading up to the application, we take the time to explain to our contributors that it is selected based on the number of years of contribution. And so we indicate to them that the intake, the persons who are selected, that those would be published, those names would be published. But we do have thousands of persons who would have applied. And so we indicate to them that if you're selected, your name will be published, and if you're not selected, your name would not, in fact, be in that particular ad. We go down the queue, so if, for example, there are 30 units and you're number 31, and for any reason one of the person is not able to afford the unit, or they're no longer interested, then we go down further in the queue. But at this point in time, we do not actually write to all the persons who have applied for the unit to say to them, this is the reason why you have not been selected. We do the information, we use the information period leading up to the process to educate them specifically on what is required, and the point system itself, so that most persons have a general understanding of the fact that it is the years of contribution that is going to be used for the point system. We also do a lot of community work, so when we go out in the different communities, we would educate our customers, and this is even before the selection, before we have the ad out. We educate them on how the units are in fact allocated.
And my reason for, thank you very much for asking, is that, understanding how our Jamaican people are very skeptical at times when you have these kind of scarce demand and supply issue. And if they apply and if they didn't figure that they were qualified in terms of the points, and so they would not have applied, given the information that you would have given to them during those consultations. So if they applied, it is more than likely that they believe that they would have accumulated the points and so on. So having not heard from you that, well, you were not selected because of so and so and so, then I think sometimes it creates even more of the speculation. So then if you could look at, finding a way to inform those who may not have been selected, to sort of give them some work. Because sometimes, as a result of that, they may never apply again, because they say, well, we won't get through because I have the points and I don't get it. So I just made that point so that you could look into, because communication is very important in terms of satisfying your customers. Thank you.
Chair, can I go ahead?
Yes.
I have a couple questions based on the narrative. The brief that you gave us just now, you mentioned your PIE system, and I totally understand the system. You also went into the special benefits order and the persons who fall under that order, and the fact that they don't necessarily have to have a high accumulation of points to be able to benefit. But what if you have 50 or more persons qualifying, have similar qualifications within this special benefits order? How do you determine who is that successful applicant in the circumstances? And this question also applies to the youth cohort, because I see where the age is 25 to 40. A 25-year-old would not have a significant amount of points to be able to qualify per se, but for the age. With this PIE system, how do you kind of make that possible for a younger person and not frustrate them in the process? I remember when I was 25, I was very frustrated trying to find property.
So, Chairman and members, as it relates to the second queue, which is what we would refer to for the special selection under this special benefit order, those persons who are selected also have their points computed. But because they're in a special queue, they would not be competing against the persons in the main queue. So let us give an example. If we were to use the nurses and we would write to them to say we have one unit available, the Nurses Association would write to us to give us a couple names, usually 2 or 3 names. When those names come in, sometimes we get more. But whatever names that we get, those are treated in accordance with the priority index entitlement. So we would score them, and our chief internal auditor would make sure that the person who gets it has the highest score. And I must say, Chairman, we haven't had much skepticism when it comes to the allocation of schemes, because it has been, I would say, one of the most tried and proven methods. We have been using it for over the decades. The points are computed and they are checked before it even leaves the scheme team. So the branch manager, all those persons who are assigned to do the computation would calculate them, and then they are sent to Kingston, where our chief internal auditor, who is separate from the process, would go back through to ensure that the persons who are chosen are in fact to be chosen based on the NHD Act. So I hope I have Okay, and for the youth, we started out with the under 40, and I think now we're at 35. So what has happened is that we have actually changed just this year how we have been treating with them. In the past, what used to happen is that persons who were within the age gap, we would have computed the points based on pi, and the person at with the highest points would have gotten the unit. But we know that the persons who are at the highest, would have the highest points, would be older. And so it is this year that we wrote to the board to change the process. And so what has happened now is that depending on the number of solutions, we actually have bands. So say we have 3 units allocated for those that are under 35. We would put them in 3 bands, 20 to 25, and that would be 1 band. 26 to about 30 would be another band. And then 31 to 35 would be another band. So the chances of you getting a unit would be improved because you'd not be competing with those persons who are 35 and older. So that is what we have been doing. Now, in cases where we have a lot of solutions, say we have 15 or 16 solutions, what we have said is that we would choose 1 for each year group. So we would have a queue for every single age, and those persons would be queued. And so you would not again be competing with those who are much older than you. So that is what we have done.
Clear on that. Member Paul.
Chairman, I'm just seeking clarification. And it is the first time I'm on this committee. Did we see a note earlier that this is subject to affirmative, or is it a negative resolution? Negative. So why would it require the attention, therefore, of the committee? I would think that if it is subject to affirmative resolution, then it has to be looked at by us and then go back to the floor of Parliament for formal approval. For my understanding is that for a negative resolution, it really doesn't require debate unless...
Standing Order 73, through you,
yes.
Chair.
Yes, well, please help me.
Standing Order 73
yes.
is what guides the power of the committee to consider the regulations, and it specifically indicates that it's those that are subject to negative resolution.
Okay.
But there's another question that arises.
All right.
I'll
No,
let
you can
finish
ask
your-
it. Well, also, I realize that are these schemes fully established, built, and perhaps you could just update us, especially the Hanover ones in relation to this hurricane that passed recently, whether or not they withstood.
Seek your leave to just tack a question onto Member Paulwell's, with your permission. The Industry Cove Manor housing scheme, I see the regs were promulgated in 2019, but they're just reaching here now. Is there a reason for that, firstly? And
2020.
sorry?
The Masemure flats.
Masemure.
Masemure.
Masemure, in Westmoreland.
Okay.
Yes, we Westmorelites know Masemure very well. Just a reason for why. But Chairman, if it may be helpful to just pose some questions and allow the team to just answer them in order instead of back and forth. I had one to tack on to what Member Hamilton had asked earlier. Just how do you select from those who have the same eligibility qualification for the special benefits? So you indicated that the eligibility is based on years of contribution and accumulated points as a result of those years. So how do you select from among those who have the same number of years and the same number of points? And how do you select from those, again, with the same eligibility criteria in the special category? I think you partially answered that question by indicating an example of the professional body making a nomination. And you said that it has worked well, not much or any. Just to say that we members of Parliament receive feedback because of the number of applicants far exceeding the number of available units, and your policy of non-response to those who are not selected, it leaves them with much anxiety and questions, and the questions are invariably directed to their members of Parliament. In addition to the question, I should like to make a suggestion for your consideration. To automate a courtesy response informing applicants who have not been selected. We have to look at what's administratively workable, but the applications are done electronically and all are required to submit emails. I believe that a response can be automated. Do not underestimate what just the courtesy of hearing. Yes, they know that the policy is for selected applicants to be notified when the list is published, but it does make a difference for them. Someone seeking a home, it may not appease fully, but at least it will acknowledge them. So on to Industry Cove, Masemure, Catherine Mount. How have they stood up, in particular Masemure and Industry Cove?
Members, we are doing an assessment. You would recognize that some of the challenges that are taking place down there would not allow for a full or comprehensive assessment. Just to answer members' point before, they are in fact houses that have been completed and were built and given to the persons who were selected. But in terms of the damage, we have heard preliminary cases of the same thing that is happening in the West. Roof loss in some of one or two areas. We have heard of flood rains and flooding as well. So we have not completed our assessment. Our project managers and technical persons have been out in the field collecting the information, in addition to our social development officers. So the assessment continues. Some places we have not been able to get full access to. So I would say that there is a mixed responses in terms of how they have held up. Some have held up quite well, and there are in fact cases where we have been told that the buildings have had some issues.
Member Buchanan.
Thank you, Chair. Okay. No, I was checking. No. Yes. Dr. Oakley. So to tack on to my colleagues, I want to start with the units for the three developments. There are 28 units total for special classes. Or special categories in the schedule. The youth or the young adults category, I noticed from the 3 units, there was only 2 allocated from the whole 28 special class. Is there a reason for that? And along with that same question, just in terms of equity of distribution, that's a question. That's what's not sitting well, certainly, from the explanation in terms of saying that on the categories, the member categories, that it is their, what, for lack of a better word, their organization or help me out with their associations. Within associations, before it get to you, you're not at all concerned that there can be some form of discrimination or favoritism in terms of the selection? I just want you to just give me a comment on that. And then lastly, in relation to these units, in light of the fact that we just had a Category 5 hurricane and these units were predated, can you say whether or not they were made in terms of to withstand any categories of hurricane, in particular a Category 5 hurricane, and what are the steps being taken by NHT for future to ensure that when persons are accessing these loans that they're protected and knowing that the units are built in terms of even the roofing, the hurricane straps, which is an additional cost sometimes, and a lot of time developers leave it out. But when I hear I'm selected from this very difficult selection, and I have a house, and then I hear that the house that I have no longer has a roof, one wonders. So just looking forward to your comment on that, because I got complaints, or I have been told, and you'll correct me, estuaries in St. James, massive damage, and I call it out flooded out. I call it out in particular because the narrative sometimes, the media catches one side, but Jamaica is an island, and when you think of just that particular development, what is the contingency plan there? Thank you.
Permit
Yes.
me, while I appreciate and share the concerns raised in the questions posed by Member Buchanan, the Regulations Committee actually has a limit, and its remit does not extend to the committee's consideration on the policy behind the regs and the merits of it. So the question is good, and I do share your concerns, but the allocation of units is a policy decision, balancing scarcity and all of that. And the committee's power does not extend to interrogating that aspect of it. But I believe that in some other way we should try to get some answer to what you've asked, because I too would like to know, but procedurally.
Okay, any other observations? Yeah.
Okay. Just to note that our construction and development senior general manager and our managing director is in fact aware of these things, and it is that assessment that is taking place now that is going to determine the way forward. What sort of hurricane straps, what sort of roofing is going to be placed on it, because all of these things have additional costs. And so the question is, persons already have issues regarding costs, but we are going to have to make that decision at our leadership team and the board level to determine whether or not we have to do certain things. I know there has to be a change in terms of our planning and how we design some of the buildings. Although we note that there's perhaps not much we can do for Category 5, but the lessons learned in terms of how we can best prepare. I wanted to just make a comment on the tiebreaker. The tiebreaker, if persons have the same points, then it would be the time of application and the date of application. So that is the tiebreaker if the person would have applied first. In terms of the selection, I just wanted you to realize that some of the special benefit order reservations, it is really going to be based on the number of solutions. So that is why you could have a small scheme where we don't have more than one special allocation. So in the case of Masemure, we had 54 units, and you will see where we only had one for each member of Nurses Association, JTA, etc. Whereas in the larger scheme, sometimes we have had up to 10 in each group, 15 sometimes. Similarly, with the Industry Cove, we had 63, and again, because of the numbers, because of the number of applicants, we knew that we couldn't take too much from that 63, so in that case, we had about 2. And in the case of Industry Cove, where we had 50, we would have had 1 unit being allocated under this. So I know you have put them together as one, but they come at different stages. So one is 2020, one is 2021, one is 2022, the intake periods. And so we look at the individual scheme, and then we determine how many we can in fact have as special reservations. We thank member about the advising persons. We will craft a message to say to them, you have not been selected in the first batch. However, if we go down the queue and you have the points, then in fact you would be, you could be selected. And we do want to use the technology as much as possible. So we accept that, and we also accept looking at the design of the building. Yes. Yes, we won't tire ourselves. No. We won't tire ourselves. And also to look at the design of the building, as Member Buchanan spoke about, how we build and the types of materials. That is something that we have to. Right now, I think every construction person has to be looking at that now going forward.
Thank you very much, Member.
Indulgence, Chairman. I'm wondering whether there is any guidance given to the professional bodies for the selection of recommendees for the special benefits. First question. The second question, I don't know if you know that because the need far exceeds the available units, applicants literally police the schemes to see who among the allocatees have actually taken up and who have rented. There is one development scheme in that borders St. James, West Central and East Central Union Acres. And I can tell you that within a certain ban, practically every day I was inundated with questions, and applicants would say that they know someone was allocated who's not living there, who is actually living somewhere else, who has rented it out. And I know the policy is for owner occupation, and I'm just suggesting that if you do not yet have a system in place to monitor, that some monitoring be done for this, because it is not the intention to allocate to people who already have homes to live in. But if only you hear some of what we hear as members of parliament, and when we check sometimes, there is good reason to believe what is being alleged.
So we accept that comment. We just wanted to say, though, that some of the schemes are not just NHT schemes. So you will have a situation where we have a joint venture with, say, Wicon, and some of the units are sold to us and some are not. And we have all kind of arrangements, different types of our construction arrangements, and quite a few of them, we don't get all the units. What I would say is that we do have what is just above zero. I don't want to say zero tolerance, but we don't want persons to rent the units, which is why we have said that you can't own another unit and come and get a unit. Okay? So there are other criteria that is not in this regulation that determines who gets the unit. I just wanted to say too that if we find out that you're renting it and it is not approved, we do have the opportunity to take back the unit. We do have that. We have not been having a rent, we don't have a rent team that goes around to determine if persons are renting at this point in time, but we do have our eyes and ears on the ground. So we have a social development team that works with the community to have a governance structure. And so when we hear of that, we do investigate and we do, in fact, take action. In terms of the guidance that we give to the different associations, there are many things that the associations take into consideration. So, for example, for the JCF, we have had situations where it is an injured person who is selected. In terms of the Nurses Association, you may find that that person lives or works right next to a scheme. So we have not been giving them specific rules in terms of how they come up with the persons. But what I can say is that when they send us the list, we use the priority index entitlement to queue them so that it removes the whole issue of favoritism.
If you would permit me, Chair.
Yes, member.
Doc, I share the sentiments of my friend. In terms of situation ethics with the rental situation, and this is for public knowledge, because I can see a very excited police officer who gets a unit and is told 2 months later that you're no longer living, you're transferred to Kingston. And he's faced with having to pay for that and finding other housing solution. And so maybe you can inform me whether there's a system in place where permission would be granted, because the reality, and this is just for public edification, so that persons understand that, and I know my friends that sit with me, they get the same calls. In terms of the policing, but the information might not be as accurate as we think. And, somebody who is really was fortunate to get a unit and then has to transfer, for instance, from Westmoreland to work in Kingston, the solution is that I would have to rent the unit that I'm in and take up rental elsewhere to become a homeowner. So I just wanted you to respond in terms of that for public education. Thank you.
You are correct, and we treat them differently. So police are treated as nomads, and so we would not, yes, because we know that they are not assigned to any one parish. So they are the only exception that we have, where we recognize that they can move throughout the length and breadth of Jamaica. And we do our internal audit as well as our branches. We take that into consideration. You're absolutely correct.
Another question, Chairman. It may not strictly relate, so I'm again seeking your permission just because the team is here and in light of what is happening on the ground. A matter was raised with me yesterday in my constituency of St. James West Central about how we build back post Melissa. And I believe that the NHT has a starter home plan and with specifications. Does that, if that information is correct, can it be made available to other parts of government as a standard? And does it also have an expansion to that plan so that people can build out in a regulated way. I don't believe that we can afford to build without plans going forward. We sometimes think we can't afford it, and the cost after destruction is greater than what it would be. So can that be made available to other parts of government? And also whether for the schemes that are built, including for the starter home units, there is also an expanded plan that allow people to build again and expand according to plan, and we contain and control in a good way what the communities look like.
So we have that. We have that, and subject to my managing director, we would of course make it available because we practice we practice joint up government. So we have plans. I think we call them A, B, and C. We have set plans for studios, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, and we also have expansion plans. So for all our schemes, we make it available free of cost, these plans. Yes, so we work with our social development team and the municipal corporations because we may not have the teeth that the municipal corporations have, but we do give our residents what we call pre-occupancy training. So in that training, we tell them the importance of sticking within the covenants, making sure that they don't breach any of the approvals from all the government agencies, and they have the plans at their disposals to expand within the contours of the approved plan. I really don't see any problem with sharing the NHT building plans with the rest of the government. I think that would be...
I'm foreseeing chairman an even bigger role for the NHT outside of how we traditionally understand it as we move to recover and rebuild the worst affected parts of Jamaica at this time.
So I just wanted to say that on behalf of the National Housing Trust, we are very seized with the tremendous loss of life and the devastation that is in all the parishes that have been directly impacted and those indirectly impacted. And last year we had a slate of initiatives. My managing director has been looking at them, and he'll be discussing with the board and of course the portfolio minister to determine the way forward. But we have actually started doing a lot of the assessment. Our staff have also been impacted. We have staff members who have lost roofs. We have staff members who don't have electricity and water. And we are trying to reach some of them. Some of them we were not able to reach until yesterday. So we are trying to make sure that our staff are taken care of, that all of them are safe, and to meet their needs. And of course, all the members in our schemes, we have been contacting them through our WhatsApp groups. The Starlink program has helped us to be able to hear some of the issues in the various communities. And so I know that there is a program that is being developed in terms of how the NHT will respond in this national crisis.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we are now at 1:36 and we have our parliamentary sitting. So I just want to take this opportunity to thank the members. But before I do that, I want to put to the members the first one, the National Housing Trust Housing Benefit Special Selection, Catherine Estates, Order 2025, and number 2, National Housing Trust Benefit Special Selection, Industry Cove Housing Development 2025, and the National Housing Trust Housing Benefit Special Selection Masemure Flats Housing Development Order 2025 to the committee, and to ask if there is any objection to.
No objection, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. We know. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Just a slight amendment, or question rather. Ms. Tiffany Stewart, Senior Legislative Counsel for the Parliament. I'm going to ask you to bring your attention to the enacting provision for the order pertaining to Industry Cove. I notice it states, in the exercise of the power conferred upon the Minister by Section 2, Paragraph 2 and 39. When you look at the other orders, it doesn't make that particular distinction in regards to Paragraph 2. It basically outlines Section 20 and 39. So just a slight amendment in terms of a drafting oversight, because Paragraph 1, 2, and 3 has to be read in conjunction in order for Section 20 to have the substantive effect in regards to the order. So just a slight amendment there. All right. Oh, one more thing. Housing benefits, I know it is referred to in housing benefits program. Oh.
So you're asking that subsection 2 be deleted?
Thank you. And just another observation, if I may. I notice the term housing benefits program is used in paragraph 3 of all orders, but it is only one order, Industry Cove Manor, that actually states the definition in the interpretation section. So I'm just inquiring, is that a drafting oversight?
Yes, member. These benefit orders would have been, the process is once we have board approval, we send drafting instructions through our portfolio ministry, who then instructs the Parliamentary Council. The orders are drafted, reviewed, and then finalized for signature and then presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. We know.
I believe the committee can propose an amendment in its report back to the House to include the qualified person, what housing special benefit program mean, which is missing from the Masemure and the Catherine estate. Let me just check and see. I believe it can. I believe it can.
Okay. All right. The committee has accepted the regulations as presented. I've already confirmed that there's no objection, and therefore we move to adopt and prepare a report for Parliament. And in light of that, I just want to take this opportunity to thank the team from the National Housing Trust and the Office of the Prime Minister, our Legislative Council and support team, and our members for your presence here today. I now move for the adjournment. Moved by Member Hamilton, seconded by Member Buchanan. I want to thank you again for coming. This meeting now stands adjourned.
Proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
When the storm rages and the world feels shaken, remember our strength lies in unity. It's in coming together, sharing hope, and standing shoulder to shoulder that we find resilience. Every act of kindness, every word of encouragement builds a brighter tomorrow. We are stronger as one. Our courage, compassion, and hope will light the way forward. Together we rise. Together we rebuild, because hope is never lost when we stand united, because we are stronger together.
What can a little germs do?